Welcome into week 8 of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. I am John Walk, sports reporter with LNP Lancaster Online, along with colleagues Jeff Reinhart and Mr. Mike Gross, who is also an accomplished author, by the way. I decided to finally put that in the background. Wonderful
Thank you,
book.
John.
Every Father's Day, he promotes it, by the way. So pick that up whenever that happens. Yeah, we are into week 8. We got 3 weeks left of the regular season for the majority of the teams as we're coming down the runway here towards section title contention and playoff berths and all that good stuff. With that in mind, our setup this week, Jeff stopped out at Octorara earlier in the week, so we're going to go out to Octorara, chat with the coach, a couple of players, and then we'll come back and we'll break down all of the week 8 games, give you our predictions, and then on the back end, talk some PIAA District 3 playoff windows and some PIAA meeting notes coming up here from Mr. Mike Gross. All right, with that in mind, Jeff, you were out in Glen earlier this week with the Braves Bowl coming up. What's going on out there?
Dig it. Huge win last week for Octorara. Huge.
Yeah.
That one LNP reporter guy picked Elko. That one didn't turn out so well for somebody. Anyway, big win for Octorara last week. Huge. Just kept them in it. Kept them in the section race, and we'll talk about districts later, and they're a bubble team right there knocking at the door to get in 4A. But anyway, wanted to stop by there. We've never done the video show at Octorara, so I wanted to get out there and give those guys some FaceTime. Big win, and it's the Battle of the Braves week, the Brave Bowl, Pequay Valley against Octorara. So I wanted to get their perspective on that game and what it's like to have a backyard rivalry game coming up. So we talked to Coach Jed King. We talked to quarterback Weston Stoltzfus, 17 touchdowns, no picks, have a year Weston. And we talked to Corey D'Antonio, who caught 4 touchdown passes last week against Elko. Wow. Have a night, Corey. So we talked with those guys and Coach King about the big win, obviously, over Elko, and previewing the Battle of the Braves Friday against Pequay Valley. Tyler and I were down in Glen for those interviews. Take it away.
Okay, enormous win here with Elko coming off Columbia. How impressed were you with your kids that they were able to snap back, bounce back right away, and win a huge gotta-have game on the road?
Super impressed. My kids have worked hard all summer and, all year, and just to see them not give up, not let things that could get them down and play through. Elko is a super physical team, and we knew that going in. And I said, hey, we got to match their physicality, and we did it. We had a big stop on the goal line. My D-line played great. We rotated a ton of guys in on that D-line, and we were able to slow that running game down enough that gave our offense chances to get up on top.
You caught 4 touchdown passes, my man. Some kids don't catch 4 touchdown passes in their career. What was that night like for you to catch 4 in the end zone, and what was it like with Weston, and how big of a night was that?
To be honest, it felt like a normal night. It felt like any normal night. Just our job. This is just our job, Do what we had to do. Shout out to the O-line to give them time to throw the ball. And yeah, it was just something that we had to get done.
It just seemed like it was always open. I mean, guy runs great routes and just put the ball up there and he goes and catches it. So
you're having a pretty good season, my man, and I don't want to be the LNP jinx guy, but you have a 0 in a certain interception column, and you're playing pretty well. Did you challenge yourself to have a big senior year and just be leader guy and play clean and manage games and just play as mistake-free as much as you can and be the leader as the quarterback?
Yeah, obviously you always got to challenge yourself, and yeah, I did that to myself this year. Try to push myself as much as I can and push the guys around me and try to have a good season here.
Let's talk PV. Neat rivalry, Battle of the Braves, Brave Bowl. You've won the last 4 of these, I think, but it's a fun rivalry because the kids all know each other, and this is a team you've played before you got to the LL. Speak to this rivalry this week, getting to play your neighbor. What's that like?
It's always great. It's what a Friday night should be. Two hometown rivals going at it. Battle of the Brave. I always tell kids, I never have to get my kids ready for this game. They're always ready for this game, as are Peckways, and they come out and they play us hard. Last year I think we threw a pick six and they picked up a fumble and scored, and it was a close game all the way to the half. And they always play us tough. So I told the kids, I said, hey, they're coming here, and this is the game they want more than any other. And so I said, like we got to show up and we got to play. And I know I won't have trouble getting them ready because they're already ready for it.
All right, welcome back from Glen. Octorara coach Jed King, by the way, Cocalico alum, and Mr. Mike Gross informs me that King played at Kutztown back in the day. So the Braves are off to a strong start through 7 games, 5-2 overall, 1-1 league. So let's get to their matchup this coming Friday in what is week 8 of LL football action. They will be home hosting Pequea Valley, 0-2 league, 1-5 overall in the Brave Bowl. Octorara leads the series 8-3. Octorara has won the last 4. Pequea Valley, by the way, comes in riding a 3-game losing streak, having been outscored during those 3 games, 167-21. So looking at this on paper, I'm easily circling Octorara, and I'll let you guys kind of tell me why. I'm sure you have a lot of statistics to back that up.
I actually have a little bit to say about this because this was
Okay.
really interesting. Covering this game last week against Elko, I was very, very impressed with the way Octorara responded to what happened to them the previous week, and also the fact that they tweaked the way they play because they saw something in the opponent that they could take advantage of, and they threw the ball. They did that formula where you throw to get the lead and then you run the ball to hold it. And I was so impressed with their quarterback. He was very, it was something like 15 for 18. Every throw was just hit the guy right between the numbers. I mean, we haven't talked about this guy enough, I guess. But I want to ask you guys something. We've all seen quarterbacks play high school in our area that have gone on to play in the NFL, that have been high school All-Americans, that have been, et cetera. Did Kerry Collins ever complete 80% of his passes? No.
Probably not.
Did Matt Nagy ever do that? Did Chad Henne ever do that? What is the deal with the passing game and how much it has improved in terms of efficiency? Even compared to the fairly recent pass, you never saw guys completing passes like this, and they make it look relatively easy.
Yeah.
Even Hayden Johnson last week when I covered Township, he was like
A sophomore. That's an excellent illustration.
Yeah.
14 for 15. And in the last 4 games, he's like, 60 for 75 or something crazy like that, like 80%.
You never saw that. Even 10 years ago, God knows not 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was completely unheard of.
Yeah. Now, not all these are big play downfield 30-yard passes.
Yeah, but it's 10 yards per attempt.
But yeah, which is really good.
I mean,
So I don't know how much of it is yards after catch. These guys aren't going bombs away on every down, but I think a lot of it is just pinpoint accuracy out of these quarterbacks these days. And Stoltzfus has been really good. He's like 55 for 80.
Maybe just running more efficient routes and getting those 10 yards and outs or 10 yards across the middle and just finding a hole in the defense that you can find at the high school level.
Yeah, and if any of those guys, Mike, that you ripped off that probably had a really good percentage, it was probably Nagy because they didn't throw a ton. He probably had a lot of like 10 for 12 nights or 9 for 11.
Okay, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. Okay.
I will say what I haven't seen yet, because we've seen a lot out of Penn State because they don't have a running game this year, just throwing it out to the flat or the slot or whatever you call it on the sidelines and letting them get 10 yards that way. I don't see that too much at the high school level. I don't know why that is, but
I think you might see that out of our area a little more. The bubble screen is a pretty common thing, that kind of thing. That's pretty common, but you're right. You don't see it. That's, come to think of it, you're right about that in our league that much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it sounds like you're taking Octorara, Mike.
Yeah, that's the bottom line on my discourse here. I'm taking Octorara, and I think that's a pretty comfortable call.
All of that said, Mike's taking Octorara. I will also take Octorara Pequay Valley, as John mentioned, is really just in a bad way right now. 167-21 in their last 3. They did score 21 points last week to get off the back-to-back shutout Schneid, which was good to see. They're last in the league in total offense, and they've given up the most rushing yards, I want to say, in the league. They're struggling a little bit. Octorara here, and the Braves, these Braves at Glen Braves need it because they're a game back here in the section, and Columbia plays Anvil in the big one, and Octorara is a bubble team for district, so they kind of need to win out here if they want a week 11. So they'll take care of business here, Octorara.
All right.
Did you make note of the word Schneid, John?
Schneid. Writing these down again, John?
I'll try. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to work our way backwards this week. We'll go sections 4, 3, 2, 1 game. So with that, we'll stay in section 4, talk about another good quarterback. I know we just hit on Octorara quarterback Weston Stoltzfus. We'll go to Columbia. Robert Footman continuing to do big things. The Crimson Tide are 2-0 in the league, 5-1 overall, going to Anvil Cleona, also 2-0 in the league, 3-3 overall. So it's a battle of first place teams in what is section 4. Columbia's coming off a 51-13 win over Northern Lebanon. Anvil's coming off a 55-21 win over Pequay Valley. This is kind of a game of two contrasting offenses. Anvil loves to run the ball, and Columbia loves to pass the ball. What do we make of this matchup?
Yeah, I like Columbia a little. I'm very impressed with what Anvil has done. So I saw him, 3 weeks, whatever it was, 4 weeks ago against Donegal. And since then, I mean, they've really done a great job of kind of resurrecting their season. That Matt Gingrich can coach, man. And they have some limitations, but they've done a great job. It's not that I don't like Anvil. I like Columbia a little better. And obviously the quarterback is a big reason why.
Yeah, Footman's been great. 1,846 yards, leads the league. 19 touchdowns, leads the league. 448 yards a game for Columbia. There's just been no slowing them down at all. I thought Northern Lebanon kind of hung with them for a little while last week. I think Columbia might have turned the ball over a time or two, but just too much in the end. Love this matchup. The winner here is really in the driver's seat because Elko has a loss, Octorara has a loss, and the loser here will have a loss. So whoever wins this is really looking good going into the last 2 weeks. Elko still has to play Columbia. Love what Anvil's been doing, running the ball, obviously, 1,700 plus rushing yards, and they've only played 6 games. They're one less because of the postponement. So they've been really good, but just way too much tied here with the offense. Just way too many wideouts to keep track of. And the Rivas kid had a 90-yard rushing night last week, so they can run the ball as well. So
the one thing I would say is that Columbia is a little turnover prone, and if that part of it swings hard one way or the other, that could impact it.
Sure, if they give Anvil a bunch of short fields,
yep,
and Anvil's going to hog the clock. I mean, if they get the ball, I mean, they're looking for like 16 to 18 play drives. Anvil can't turn it over either because Columbia can score in 3 plays. So keep an eye on the turnover number in this game. But I'll go Columbia. Just a little too much tied, and they can kind of see the finish line. I was surprised. I was digging around for this. Columbia hasn't won a section title since. Guesses? Anyone?
2011?
Oh,
No.
2002.
Oh, all right.
So it's been a while. Tide is due to win a section. So they can see the finish line, and I think they know if they take care of business here, they can punch the ticket. So I'll go Tide here.
I was a freshman in high school in 2002, by the way. Just going over Columbia's schedule, trying to find similar opponents, and the fact that Anvil Cleona loves to run the ball. Columbia played at Donegal. Donegal loves to run the ball. Donegal won that in week 2, 2018. Columbia played at Octorara in week 6. Octorara likes to run the ball, even though they are a bit more well-balanced. Columbia won that by the chinny chin of their hair, 48-46. So it has proven that Columbia kind of, I don't know, struggles to put away teams that loves
That's
to
a good point,
to
John.
run the
That
ball.
really is a good point. I noticed that too. Yeah.
And Anvil Cleona, speaking of run the ball, I wanted to throw this statistic out. Last week had 3 different players account for 3 separate rushing scores of 75 yards or more. Rogan Harder, 75-yarder. Gavin Keller, 76-yarder. Phoenix Music, our boy, had an 80-yarder. And oh, by the way, Gavin Keller also threw a 72-yard touchdown throw to Ethan Missimer. So I have Crimson Tide circled. I think it's going to be a battle, though. All right, so we're all going Columbia. Final game in Section 4, Northern Lebanon, 0-2 league, 3-4 overall, going to Elko, 1-1 league, 2-4 overall. Northern Lebanon, as we mentioned, coming off a 51-13 loss to Columbia, and Elko coming off a 32-17 loss to Octorara. Mike, you saw Elko play last week. What did we make of the Raiders this Friday?
They really struggled with pass defense. I guess that would be evident. Got behind early, and it's hard for them to get behind the way they play. I mean, that's just a limitation that they have. I don't think any of that quite applies to this opponent. However, I think this is a pretty competitive game. This is one of those intra-Lebanon County smaller schools. They play each other every year in every sport, and they want to beat each other pretty badly. And Northern Lebanon is at a point now where it's trying to kind of salvage. They made some progress this year. They can still get to 5 wins if they get this one. So I think this is close. But Elko at home, slightly.
Yeah, Elko probably has a little too much here. I'm anxious to see where they'll be at mentally coming off Octorara last week. That'll be big for me anyway. Northern Lebanon has lost 3 in a row, and they made a switch last week. Nothing sinister from what I can tell, but they started Ethan Ebersole at quarterback, and they moved Grady Stickler to like running back type, and he rushed for 70 yards, caught a couple of passes. Ebersole had 2 touchdown passes. So, I don't know. Maybe the Vikings were just going for a different look, get a spark.
Yeah, interesting.
Try something different. Because Ebersole's a kid who was a playmaker kid, but he really wasn't touching the ball much because Stickler was playing quarterback. So I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But it just looks like they switched positions, and they both did some things. So no harm, no foul. We'll see if they go with that again this week. Even so, I'm going to go Elko here. I think there's still a ton of pride there. Their chances now of even postseason, took a shot at 2-4, and they're only going to get 9 games because they have a postponement because of COVID. So Elko's got to finish strong here late if they want any chance at the postseason. So I think they'll come back pretty strong here after Octorara. So I'll go Elko.
Yeah, Elko, by the way, number 15 in District 3 4A power ratings. The top 10 teams make it. Speaking of which, Northern Lebanon is in District 3 Class 3A, in which 8 teams qualify, and Northern Lebanon sits at number 9. So they need to win this game if they're going to have a shot at making the playoffs this year. With that in mind, I have Elko circled. I just like their weapons with Jake Williams coming back last week, and Luke Williams, the brother, continued to turn it up on the ground. So it sounds like we're all going Raiders here. All right, Section 3, Lancaster Catholic 0-2 league, 3-4 overall, going to Lebanon 0-2, 0-7. The Crusaders coming off a 29-21 loss to Ephrata last week. Meanwhile, the Cedars were blanked 36-0 against Garden Spot. And just kind of looking at this game on paper, you gotta think, Lancaster Catholic, they're going to get the bounce back. One would like to say, even though they've kind of been slipping most of the year, they do go on the road, and Lebanon kind of did seem to turn a corner there in weeks 5 and 6, and then getting blanked wasn't a good look last week. I have Catholic circled. I don't feel great about this game, but I'll go Crusaders.
I don't feel great about it either, but I like Lancaster Catholic a little bit. 2 weeks ago, Lebanon made this change, and it really seemed to bear some fruit. I mean, they scored 5 offensive touchdowns against Ephrata, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a little bit of sneaking up on everybody because they had not been able to throw the ball at all before then, and they kind of changed the way they play a little bit. I like Catholic a little.
Yeah, I was puzzled by Lebanon last week because, Mike, like you said, the Ephrata game, they were like a different team. I know they didn't get a W, but man, oh days, 30-plus points, 400 yards. Mason played great.
You got to assume that everybody was putting 8 and 9 in the box against them, and then they showed them something at Ephrata that they had not seen all year. Maybe I don't know.
This is true. And then they came out last week and got shut out against a Garden Spot team that was off the week before because of COVID. And they were kind of, I hate to say sitting around, but, they had some extra time on their hands. So that was a bit of a puzzler. I'll go Catholic here. Keep an eye on this. Lebanon's given up a lot of rushing yards. They're either last in the league or second to last in the league in rushing yards allowed.
Yeah.
Tony Cruz for Catholic, who's having a great year. He's over
Yeah.
500 rushing yards. He's been really good. But in the last 2 weeks, he's been held to 50 rushing yards total, 25 in each game in the last 2 weeks. So he's due to bust one here. He's due for a 100-yard night and a couple of touchdowns. So if they can feed Cruz and if he can get in the end zone and get 100 yards, I think Catholic's in pretty good shape. So I'll go Crusaders here.
All right. And speaking of statistics throughout there, I do want to give a shout out to the Lancaster Catholic punter, Daniel Mueller. Villanova commit last week booted a 60-yarder and averaged more than 50 yards per punt last week versus Ephrata. So congrats to the specialist. And
Nice.
Mike, I know you wrote about him a few weeks back when Penn State blew out Villanova. And it sounds like Mueller might end up going to Villanova and have a good shot at competing for a starting spot as a specialist there. Moving on, Section 3, Donegal 0-1 in the league, 4-2 overall, going to Ephrata 2-0 in the league, 5-2 overall. The Indians coming off a 55-0 shutout loss to Lampeter Strasburg, and Ephrata, as we just mentioned, 29-21 win over Lancaster Catholic. And do just want to mention last year, Ephrata won this game 33-7. And Jeff, you covered Donegal last week. What do we make of the Indians coming into Week 8?
Oh boy, they need to get in a better place. Because that LS game last week was not pretty. I mean, I think we all were like, here we go, Donegal. Here's your big chance at LS. Show me what you got. And Donegal just, it was just fumble, safety, fumble, safety. I mean, it was 19-0 LS like 2 minutes into the game. I mean, it was silly. And finally Donegal completed a pass, and the poor kid caught the pass, and before he even can make a move, fumble, and LS gets it at the 6 and scores again. It was bad. I felt bad for Donegal after a while because they could not get out of their own way. And yes, LS is really good, and we all know that, but Donegal was jacked for that game, and they had a really legit good chance to be in that game, and LS just buried them early, and it was 55-0. So I'm anxious to see where Donegal is at mentally here, coming back. And this is a major trap game for Ephrata, because Ephrata at LS next week. So Ephrata cannot get caught napping. No way. And they can't look at this and say, well, Donegal got trucked last week, and, they're not going to be into it at all. You can't, because Donegal still has way too many weapons, and those guys have got to be motivated, because Donegal's 4-2, and they're inside the bubble right now for a district spot. So they need to keep winning. So this is a big game for Donegal too. They got to stop Andre Weidman. 1,100 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, back-to-back 200-yard rushing nights. Great win for Ephrata last week, coming back in the fourth quarter to beat Catholic. So they have all the mo here, all of it. But again, the only thing that worries me about this game for the Mounts is trap game with LS coming up. But I'm gonna ride him. I just think Weidman's been the X factor too many nights, and he keeps delivering week after week. So I'm gonna go Ephrata, and this is a 3-way tie. Don't forget, because LS and Garden Spot is 1-0 because they're a week behind, and LS is 2-0. So we have 3 teams with 0 losses in this section. So there's a lot going down in Section 3 this week. These 2 games here we're talking about are big games. So I'll go Ephrata here, but I think this is a good one.
Yeah, Andrew.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry,
Go
Mike.
ahead.
I thought you went already. Go ahead.
That's okay. No, I was just gonna say. I mean, I spend more time on this game than I usually do, and it sounds like Ryan's did too. There was an excellent breakdown of the whole thing. I was really like, the more you thought about it, the more you were baffled by it. This is a really tough call for all the reasons that you outlined. And I'm going to say Ephrata at home. Ephrata with, I think, can see more in this season still possibility a little bit. You know, you like Weidman. He's just sort of an X factor with among teams at this level. So yeah, really a tough call, but I was going Ephrata.
Yeah, this is a coin flip for me. I'll take Mountaineers as well. So it sounds like we're going effort across the board. All right.
After what Cedar Crest did to Hempfield last week, any of these look ahead trap games, I really have to look at. And Ephrata Donegal was one of those.
It's part of it. It's part of the picture. Yeah, it's part of the picture.
Yep. No doubt.
All right, and final game in what is Section 3, Lampeter Strasburg going to Garden Spot. The Pioneers 2-0 league, 6-1 overall, riding what is the league's longest winning streak at 6 games in a row. Going to Garden Spot, 1-0 league, 2-4 overall. The Pioneers coming off a 55-0 win over Donegal. Spartans coming off a 36-0 win over Lebanon. So 2 teams coming off big blowout wins in what was shutout fashion. And before we move forward, I do want to give a shout out to another specialist that we know well, Garden Spot kicker Walker Martin last week drew a 27-yard field goal, 35-yard field goal, and a 41-yard field goal all in one game. Now has the 3 longest field goals of any kicker in the league so far this season at 47, 46, and 41 yards. So kudos to him. Jeff, you covered LS last week, and what is another stout showing from their defense?
Yeah. By the way, Martin has 10 field goals this season. That's pretty good. Leads the league. Might lead the district. LS's defense is really good. There's my takeaway. Yeah, just they just bottled up Donegal. I think the stat that boggled my mind the most last week, other than the safeties and the sacks and everything, Donegal didn't get a first down until 17 seconds left in the third quarter.
Wow.
Which is just mind-boggling. I mean, and Donegal's good, man. They're a legit good team that has a great shot to make districts.
Yeah.
And they didn't get a first down until like the second to last play in the third quarter. That's how good LS has been. Really like what Berkeley Wagner's doing. He didn't get 100 night last week, but he had 3 touchdown passes up top. So their passing game is now clicking. Very balanced offensively. A bunch of kids will run the ball. Malatesta, Mellinger, Cunningham. I mean, and Wagner might rush for 1,000 yards till this is all over. Love the way their defense is going. Garden Spot also coming off a shutout. Good for those guys. They've won 2 in a row, and here they are. I mean, they're 1-0. They're right here, and they have a chance to knock off the champs, and they're at home with a really good special teams. I'm not sure what's up with quarterback at Garden Spot. Sadowski was so good the first 4 or 5 weeks. We know he got hurt in the Pequot Valley game, and this Kai Harding kid has come in, and he started last week against Lebanon and had a 200-yard passing night and a touchdown run and 2 touchdown passes. So Garden Spot's really found it here. I think they're going to make this hard for LS. I don't think this is 55 zip, but I got to go Pioneers here. They're really good, and they're firing, and they know that, you know, that Ephrata is there, and they're not going to get caught looking ahead to Ephrata, and they know they're kind of tied with Spot with 0 losses, and LS loves these kind of games, and I think they take care of business. So I'll go Pios.
Yeah, I think we talk about trap games, and we talk about the ebb and flow of the schedule and all that stuff matters. But it also, I think, it's important to recognize when you have a team that's operating at a level above all that.
Yeah,
and that's what we're looking at here.
Yes,
LS is very, very good.
They are.
Yeah,
they
are.
Right,
I like LS. In case that didn't go without saying. Yeah.
We're all taking LS across the board. This is the week 8 of the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. Let's get into Section 2. Cocalico, 2-0 league, 4-3 overall, going to Elizabethtown, 0-2 league, 3-4 overall. The Eagles coming off a 46-28 win over Cocalico Valley. Meanwhile, the Bears went down to the wire, nearly sent it to overtime, falling to Warwick 42-40 last Friday in what was an absolute shootout, entertaining game. Just kind of looking at this kind of more further in detail, kind of comparing opponents in a sense like, okay, Elizabethtown comes in, they love to pass the ball. How's Cocalico fared against teams that have passed the ball? They beat Conrad Weiser in week 1, and then last week they played a Cocalico Valley team that threw for 333 yards, yet CV still lost by 4 scores. So that kind of clinches it for me. I think E-Town will move the ball through the air, but Cocalico finds a way to get it done. I have the Eagles circled in this one.
Yeah, when you have a team losing by a substantial margin, but a lot of passing yards, you can sort of see what might have happened there.
Sure.
We got behind and we had to throw it, and they're probably playing a kind of soft coverage, and I think that's a good breakdown of it, John. I like Cocalico here, and yeah, I think their problems, they've had problems stopping the run this year, but I don't know that E-Town is equipped to take advantage of that to the point where you would pick them to win it. It's certainly possible, but I like the Eagles.
Cocalico has given up the most passing yards in the league, 1,400 plus, and E-Town loves going up top. Josh Rudy's really good. He probably doesn't get the pub that he should be because, Reed and Footman and Wagner and
He's only completing 70% of his passes.
I know. But Rudy's playing really good. He had a 300-yard game last week. And E-Town could have beat Warwick last week. They had a 2-point conversion try late and came up this short. So that must have been an unbelievable game. Trap game alert. Cocalico versus Warwick next week.
Yeah.
And Warwick isn't playing this week because of COVID, but Cocalico can't get caught looking ahead here because E-Town can put up some crooked numbers fast.
That's a good point.
Cocalico leads the league in rushing, 2,088 yards. Barassa, 1,223 yards, 16 touchdowns, leads the league in both. I think Cocalico will play enough keep away here that they can win. And I know this was 52 zip last year. And by the way, Cocalico's won 10 in a row in the series. E-Town hasn't won this game since 2010. I don't think it's 52 zip this time around. I think if E-Town can get enough possessions, I think they're going to score because Cocalico has been vulnerable. I think there could be some points in this game. Call me crazy. This could be 35-30, 34-28, something like that. I think it could be if E-Town can finish some drives. But I'll go Eagles. I don't think they get caught looking too far ahead. And I think they'll take care of business here. So Cocalico.
All right, staying in what is Section 2, Manheim Central 1-1 league, 6-1 overall, going to Conestoga Valley 1-1 league, 3-4 overall. The Barons coming off a 35-21 win over Solanco. Meanwhile, CV, as we just mentioned, coming off a 46-28 loss to Cocalico. Guys, it seems like the Buckskins have kind of finally started to figure some things out. Yeah, they come off a loss, but after what was a tough 4 weeks to start the year, again, just like 2020, they really kind of turned a corner here offensively. They're really well balanced. When it comes to picking this game, I was kind of going back through Manheim Central's schedule in the sense that CV quarterback, we look at him coming in, McCoy Neasley, 356 passing yards last week is the single game high water mark for any LL quarterback so far this season. So yeah, the Buckskins also have running back Nick Tran, but McCoy can really throw the ball. So how can Manheim Central defense fare against a team that passes the ball? Well, against Warwick, as you might recall, a couple weeks back in what was a Warriors 35-28 win, they threw for more than 300 yards. So this will be another beast in a team that likes to throw the ball, and Manheim Central will be on the road. However, I still like the Barons kind of coming out on top here. It might be another close one.
Well, you made a pretty compelling case for CV there, John, but then you didn't pull the trigger. So yeah,
I'm sorry.
You're right. Manheim Central may be certainly more vulnerable to the pass than they are to the run. So that's kind of intriguing. But overall, I like their defense and I like their quarterback and I like their team. And boy, I can't help but think this. Remember when this was the best matchup in our league?
Oh yeah.
I mean, this was like such a marquee game. This was like Nebraska against Oklahoma used to be back in the day. Crazy, but I guess that's just me. That's not really relevant to the pick, I guess. I'll take the Barons. I like Central a little.
Yeah, Central's D is third now in the league. They were number one for weeks, but LS and Wilson have now overtaken them in that category. Yeah. But Central's given up the least rushing yards in the league. They have 20 sacks and 12 takeaways. So they're still pretty good on that side of the ball. I'll go Barons here. CV won this game last year, 41-35.
I covered that game. It was a great game.
That's right. And that was CV's first win over Central since 2006. which was the Ty Bynum game when he returned the opening kickoff, like
Yeah.
90 yards for a touchdown. It had been that long since CB had beaten Central. So Barons have dominated this rivalry. I know CB was up in Section 1 for a couple of years, but Central's won this game so many times before last year. Good for CB. Nicely's playing well for CB. Big game last week, passing the ball. But I just like Central here. They're still in this race. They know Cocalico or Warwick will lose next week, and they have Cocalico in week 10. So the Barons can still.
They're really in good shape. Yeah, they are. I mean, we kind of fixated on that loss, which I think was pretty striking. But yeah, they're still in really good shape.
Yeah, they're still in it, and they're on the 3 line in districts, which is kind of about where they want to be because they want to avoid Mifflin as long as possible. So yeah, Barons here. I don't know if it's 41-35 like last year, but I think Central wins.
All right, and what was supposed to be the final game in Section 2, Solanco 0-2 League 2-5 overall, was supposed to travel to Warwick 2-0 League 4-3 overall. That game has now been postponed due to some COVID issues in the Solanco school district. Jeff, you have any more to add in that, or should we move on here?
No, just that there was COVID. My thing's going to be, this is the second section game that's been postponed. Garden Spot Donegal was off 2 weeks ago. I don't know what they're going to do with these games. Nobody said, this is official. This is what we're doing. I haven't heard. But if some of these teams make districts, they'll go to districts. If they both don't make districts, then they'll make that game up November 5th. But like Warwick, they're probably in. Donegal's got a chance to be in. So to be determined on the makeups. And that's how they listed Solanco Warwick. It said postponed TBD. So we'll see what happens. But Warwick's in line to make districts. So we'll see. The league's not going to like it very much that these section games weren't made up because they like to, be tidy and, have all the section games played for, history of the league and all that
but
stuff.
It's also, abundance of caution. I mean, you
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, we're just in a time now. I mean, a bunch of games didn't get played last year, and it looks like a couple games won't get played this year. And you just move on and do the best you can. So no Solanco Warwick this week. So Warriors will have an extra week getting ready for Cocalico.
All right, let's go to Section 1, Hempfield 1-1 League 4-3 overall, going to Manheim Township 2-0 League 5-2 overall. A rivalry game and a trophy game. I should mention the scores from last week. Hempfield coming off a 20-13 loss to Cedar Crest. Manheim Township coming off a 48-14 win over Penn Manor. And this is a trophy game. Jeff, I'll let you take it from here because I'm not really sure how to pronounce the name of the gentleman on the trophy.
Oh, so you'll let me butcher it.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. I think it's Kurjaika or Kuryaika. And I'm not sure. I've probably been told who this guy is, but I don't, off the top of my head. I'm sorry. My head is bulging with other stuff. I don't know who this fella is. But the trophy is named after him. This will be the 8th year of the trophy game between these two rivals. Township leads 7-0 in the series, in the trophy series. Hempfield's last win in the series was in 2013, so it's been a little while. Hempfield got tripped up. Cedar Crest knocked them off last week, and we talked about it. Trap game, don't get caught looking ahead. And Cedar Crest did it. Tip of the cap to those guys. They beat Hempfield, knocked them out of first. So now it's Township and Wilson on the one line. So tricky spot for Hempfield. They got to get it back quick. And Township is just hot. I mean, they've won 4 in a row, 41 points a game during this win streak. Hayden Johnson, 900-plus passing yards and 14 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. Township's been awesome. And Hempfield just kind of picked a bad time to have that happen. I'm sure they'd much rather be going into this game in a 3-way tie for first, but they're not. So they need to pick it up quick and go to Township. So I have the blue streak circled. They're just playing lights out, and I picked them to win this section back in August. So I'm going to ride them, and I think they take care of business here. I'll go Township.
I like Township too. However, I have a couple things to say about this game.
Go.
I watched our show last week, and I was not happy with the way I explained what I was saying about Hempfield and the possibility of that being a trap. I just feel like these teams have an ebb and flow to their season, and sometimes after you've watched the insane amount of sports that I've watched in my life, sometimes you could see two teams are intersecting at a point where it looks like something might be happening, and that's what I wasn't saying. Certainly, consciously, Hempfield did not take Cedar Crest lightly. Certainly, they were aware that you got to show up every. I wasn't saying that as a like Hempfield is not a mature team or not a mentally tough team. I wasn't happy with the way I explained what I was trying to explain. But anyway, I think now Hempfield is in a situation where they're fighting for their season. I mean, really, they've had a pretty good year, but it starts to look less good if you lose two in a row when it's all kind of coming to a conclusion here. So I think they'll fight like crazy, and I also think that Township has been on cruise control for a while now with a very young team. I'm a little bit leery of saying that they just keep steamrolling people. So I think this is a tough game. I think this is a tough game. I think it's a close game. This is another one of those. These teams have been playing each other forever in every sport, and they're rivals and all of that. I'm taking Township, but I think this is not a blowout by any stretch of the imagination.
I know what you mean there as far as, okay, Township, they've been rolling and they're a young team, so maybe they kind of not get full of themselves, but maybe don't take practice as seriously as you might coming off a loss, like Hempfield will this week, and be fired up coming into what is already a game
of those. It's another thing like that, like we've been talking. Yeah.
Two things, two quick things. Hempfield Wilson next week.
Yep.
And the feature this week, since we teed it up here with Township, writing about Anthony Ivy, Township's wonderfully gifted wide receiver, 4-year kid. He burst onto the scene as a freshman in that game against Cocalico, crossover game over at Township, and he returned a punt like 90 yards for a touchdown, and we were like, whoa, who is this kid? Penn State commit. He'll play for the Nittany Lions, who are bringing in some awesome wide receivers here lately. Just wanted to do a encompassing Anthony Ivy's career story, where he's at, what he's done, what's next. Mike's written about these Penn State wideouts here. Is it wide receiver now? So I wanted to get Ivy's take on Dotson and Washington and all these guys coming through, and he gets to be next. He's playing on that next group of kids coming through there. So yeah, he said some really, really cool things. So and yet another Chris Knight ridiculous feature photo that you will not believe. So grab a paper on Thursday for Anthony Ivy feature. Good kid.
I believe I was on the sidelines for his first varsity touch as a freshman that I had to go for at least 80 plus yards on a kick return for a touchdown, of course. So it's frustrating now being at the Township games, and he never gets a chance to return because they just booted him to the sidelines or as a touchback. And it's like, man, I came here to watch him a little bit, but it is what it is. By the way, the Joseph Kurjayaka Trophy, I think it may have been named after Joe. I won't say his name again, but Joe passed away in 2011. I found his obituary here. He was 47. He lived in Landisville. So this year marks his 10 years since he had passed. He's a graduate of Lancaster Catholic High School. He went on to attend Penn State, later served at Manheim Township, and served on the scoreboard at Hempfield. So perhaps there's kind of those two tie-ins there, what led to the trophy. So just thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to take the streaks, but I think it's a really close ground and pound type of game coming up this Friday. All right, staying in Section 1, Wilson 2-0 league, 4-3 overall, going to Cedar Crest 1-1 league, 3-3 overall. Wilson coming off a 59-12 win over McCaskey. Cedar Crest coming off a big time win, 20-13 over Hempfield. I don't think any of us saw that coming. If you look at like last week's games, the one that surprised us the most likely will be that. Mike, you're a Cedar Crest alum, and you'll probably be covering this game on Friday. So walk us through what's going on with the Falcons.
I will be covering this game, and if you remember, I tried everything I could to talk myself into picking Cedar Crest last week, and then wimped out on actually doing so. But yeah, Cedar Crest, they got a great game from Aiden Richards, who is last week on both sides of the ball. I think he had 7 tackles for loss last week. I mean, I went and looked at Penn State statistics. They have their entire linebacking unit has like 9 tackles for loss this year. Middle linebacker had 7 tackles for loss in one game, and he's a terrific running back. He's one of those guys. We always have a few of these guys in our league. This running back / linebacker who's just a football player, and that's what he is. And last week was kind of his night in his senior year. Having said all that, Wilson's going along the way. They're kind of being Wilson now. And Cedar Crest is at home, they have a puncher's chance, but I like the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Richard's whole night in a nutshell. 121 rush with a touchdown run, 19 tackles, which is staggering, 7 for losses, 2 sacks, and a pick 6.
He did okay.
How you doing? Yeah.
He did okay.
Yeah, not bad. I have Wilson circled. You're right. They're back to doing Wilson things. Cam Jones as a kid, I saw he's visiting Virginia Tech this week, I think. Cam Jones, Jaden's brother. He has 3 punt returns for touchdowns. He has punt returns.
They did not have him at some key points in this season, right?
Jaden, correct. Jaden, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he missed a couple games early. But Cam, 3 punt returns for touchdowns. And then he's had 2 punt return for touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He
also has a kick return for touchdown this season too.
He's been unbelievable in special teams, and they probably try to find a way to get him the ball more one way or another. He had a 43-yard run out of the backfield last week. He's been awesome. So Cam Jones is a name to remember in this game. If this turns into a special teams kind of a game, field position, kick returns, punt returns, Crest, don't kick it to Cam Jones. I think he was 6. Don't kick
Crest
it.
Crest has not given up a return for a touchdown this season yet.
Good thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to kick it out of bounds against Ivy, you gotta kick it out of bounds against this kid too, I guess.
Probably. Don't punt it to number 6, please. Hey, puncher's chance for Crest after what they did last week. I guess nothing would really surprise me here. But Wilson's doing Wilson things, and they know they have Hempfield next week, and they know they got Township in week 10, and those guys never look ahead. So I think they'll take care of business, but I don't think this is Route City. I think Crest has done enough proving it this year. I know they hit a kind of a weird speed bump there, but they've won some games and done some things, and I think they'll put up a good fight here, but I'll go Bulldogs.
My thing looking at this, both teams, they have almost similar numbers in run defense, but then you remember, Crest only played 6 games, and Crest given up 990 rushing yards. Wilson's given up 976 in 7 games. So if I had to draw a line here, I'll say Wilson's run defense plays a little bit better than Cedar Crest run defense, even though we like Aiden Richards in this one pack, stacking up a bunch of tackles. So we'll go Bulldogs in this one. Final game, Section 1, Penn Manor 0-2 league, 4-3 overall, going to McCaskey 0-2 league, 2-5 overall. Both teams coming off tough losses. Penn Manor 48-14 to Township loss, and McCaskey 59-12. Lost to Wilson last week. McCaskey has now lost 2 in a row. Penn Manor, after a 4-1 start, has lost back-to-back games by a combined score of 88-20. So both teams coming in need of some good mojo here to kind of turn the corner going into the final weeks of the season. I'll credit our buddy Dave Byrne, the Hall of Famer, nonetheless, points out that McCaskey, in their 2 wins, they ran the ball really well. So how does Penn Manor fare against the run? Well, 2 weeks ago, Jane Jones tore up the Comets on the ground. Last week, Hayden Johnson left the Comets through the air. Penn Manor made a switch at quarterback at halftime. Didn't really make much of a difference. All that said, I still like Penn Manor to kind of figure out a way to get it done, even though that was lopsided score at Township. They did show a little bit of promise in getting up an early touchdown and kind of moving the ball late in the first half, and able to kind of move the ball a little bit more in the second half. So just a little bit of sample size leads me to the comments, although I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I think that Penn Manor has made. Both of these teams have made a little progress this year. Certainly,
No
Penn
doubt.
Manor, I would say more so. And now we're at the point of the season where you got to kind of keep fighting to sustain it. So you're almost thinking about the program going forward. Although obviously, if you're a senior on either team, you're not thinking about that. But yeah, I think Penn Manor. If Penn Manor had been really stout against the run this year, they might have really had something. They might have really been able to be a factor. And I know that John Brubaker would that would be like job one for him. He's a defense guy. And but anyway, I like Penn Manor. I like Penn Manor here. Yeah.
As mentioned, John, both these teams need some mojo. Penn Manor's lost 2 in a row. McCaskey's lost 4 in a row. So both teams want to end those streaks. And for Penn Manor, if they get another win, they'd get to 5 wins and have a 500 season, which is kind of a big deal because
that's what I'm kind of talking about. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And if they can win here and win another game, they could get to 6 wins and have a winning season, which would be big for those guys. It really would. And Penn Manor is still a bubble team for 6A in districts. So if they win out and go 7-3, who knows? Maybe they get a week 11. We shall see. I have the Comets circled. They got to take care of Covington. He's having a really nice season. Shamir Covington, running back from McCaskey.
Yep.
500 plus yards, 6 touchdowns. I think he's got a kick return for a touchdown. Really nice player who should definitely get some all-star votes. Like him a lot. Kind of an underrated kid, but leads Section 1 in rushing. He's been really good.
And when you factor in how many teams they probably were at a disadvantage against on the line of scrimmage,
True.
factor that into his numbers, it makes it a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. I think if Penn Manor can take care of him, I think they can win. So I'll go Comets.
Yeah, you make a point about getting them to at least 5 wins, 500 at least season. That is a big deal. I'd speak from experience. 05 senior season, we went 5-5, so it was like the first non-losing season in almost 20 years. So that is a big deal for the Comets. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it might have been since 2014 since they last finished over 500 or 500 or better, something like that. So to be on the climb there in the Brubaker era anyway is of great import to the Comets. And this is always a big game for me because my dad's a McCaskey alum. I'm a Penn Manor alum. So sounds like we all like the Comets, but it should be an entertaining game. All right. This is the portion of the show where we say, I guess, well, first off, let's go to the playoff outlook, since we have 3 weeks left in the regular season. Teams coming down the stretch here. And Jeff, I credit you to this. You put this together earlier this week, so I'll let you kind of handle it from here. 11 LL football teams currently inside the bubble to earn District 3 playoff bids. If we can go quickly through that, hit us with that.
Quickly. 6A, Township 6, Hempfield 8 in an 8-team bracket. So Hempfield with Township and Wilson next on the bubble line. So make or break time for the Black Knights. Wilson is the first team out at number 9. Penn Manor, Crest, and McCaskey trying to get back in. 5A, Central's 3, Warwick is 7 with a week off, and Effort is 10. Effort hasn't been in districts in I don't know how long. I'm going to have to go.
Effort still has an awful lot to play for.
They do.
They
and I know
really
this is a trap game, and Donegal's tricky, but man, Effort is still in for the section and for a playoff game, which would just be unbelievable for that group. Outside looking in, E-Town, CB, Solanco, Lebanon. Barons want to be 2 or 3, not 4, and they want to avoid Mifflin as long as possible. Same with Warwick. I'd have to look and see where they would avoid the 1 seed, which would be the Stangs. Warwick will get back at it next week. 4A, LS is 2 with a bullet. They've been unbelievable. Cocalico, this was the biggest jump of the week. Remember last week, Cocalico was on the 10 line on the bubble?
Yeah.
They jumped all the way to 4 by beating Conestoga Valley. So they're on the 4 line. Donegal, number 9. So they're safe. Big game here with Ephrata. We'll see if they can get it back together quick and stay inside the bubble. Donegal would love a playoff game. Octorara's 11. They'd be the first team out. Octorara is probably going to need a 3-0 finish and help to get in. And Octorara in program history was only in the playoffs once, and that was in District 1 many years back. Elko and Garden Spot on the outside looking in. Triple A, 8 get in. Anvil 6. Lancaster Catholic is 7. First team out, Northern Lebanon at 9. Pequot Valley's 14. I said last week, I don't know if any of the LLs, AAAs can get in, and only 8
They have
get
to play
in.
each other. The ones that have a chance have to play each other.
Yeah, a Catholic already beat Anvil, but I don't know. We'll see. Anvil, obviously, with the tricky game this week with Columbia, and Anvil's only going to get 9 in the regular season because they had a game postponed. We shall see. Stay tuned on AAA. AA, Columbia's number 2 at 5-1. Great chance here for the top. Great chance. York Catholic's number 1. But, hey, are they gettable? We'll see. Big game for Columbia here with Anvil for the section. But Tide got to be loving its chances here for districts. They can't get caught looking ahead because they missed by that much the last 2 or 3 years. So that group, once in, they just got to stay focused. So 11 teams as of now are in. But, wow, Hempfield's kind of wobbling there on the bubble.
Very subject to change. Very subject to change.
Yeah.
Hempfield was really not hurt by losing last week much, but
No.
but look who they still have to play. I mean,
They still have to play. And Wilson last week, I think we all kind of said, all eyes on Wilson, look out. And they're up to 9. And they get Crest, who's a 6A at 13. Next week they get Hempfield, a 6A, who's 8, and they get Township.
Yeah, they have to. Again, Wilson has to win out.
Probably win out, unless whoever's 7 or whoever right now completely tanks. But yeah, Wilson's the first team out right now. So
That's going to be some number crunching in 6A, though. I mean, it is in every class, of course,
Yep.
but yeah.
Rod Frisco, enjoy crunching the numbers, my friend. There's your district report. Back to you, John.
Good job, Jeff Ronhart. And yeah, so I was looking over the upcoming PIAA board meeting notes because Mr. Mike Gurris wants to talk about that. It sounds like we have some possible changes to preseason practice dates and possible changes to the competition classification formula that's going to be held this coming Wednesday of this week.
Yeah, Wednesday of this week. Actually, as we're recording this show, they're meeting right now. And both of those things are on a third reading. So whatever they decide today will be what they decide. The first one you mentioned, John, is if a team has to move up because of the competition formula, and then they have 0 competition or success formula points in the following 2-year cycle, they will be allowed to move back down to where they were originally. That's what that is. They're voting on that today. The other one is, if you remember last year, in a lot of the sports where there were 15 days, you had to have 15 days of practice before you could play a game.
Yep.
They moved it back to 10 in order to help people who had COVID issues, and you can restart your season without having to have too many practices before you do so. Well, now they're trying to make this is to make that permanent. To go from 15 back to 10.
Good.
And what I think is interesting about this, and what I hope we'll find out today, is that they're not changing the first practice date. So they must be, that means they must be moving earlier the first playing date, which means that the beginning of winter sports will overlap with the end of fall sports by 5 days more than it did before. Or winter sports. Am I right? I think that's right. So that's the thing that I think will be a little bit controversial about that, unless they figured out a workaround of that.
Well, by that point though, of the end of fall sports, the only teams that are left playing are like the state championship football.
Yeah, it will be like, that's right. It would be like instead of being the state finalist, it might be the semifinalists.
Yeah, those kids aren't going to miss much. Are they even going to miss? Are they going to miss one basketball game or one wrestling meet? Maybe.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, just a little bit. 5 days more overlap of the seasons.
Yeah, and 10 days is all you need. You don't need 15. These kids are ready after 10 days.
I think it's going to happen. Usually, if something gets to a third reading, they've batted it around and tweaked it, and I think it's going to happen, and it may have already happened as I'm sitting here talking, but that's going to be something we'll work on tonight.
Cool.
And this time next year, remember, 37-team football league, so we'll have like a whole another half hour of football still left to talk about this time next year. Anyways,
breaking down Fleetwood versus Hamburg.
All right, vocabulary section of the show. Yeah, we only ended up with Schneid and Jeff talking about Beckway Valley scoring 21 points in week 7 after being held scoreless in weeks 5 and 6. So Braves got off the Schneid in the scoring department there. This is the point of the show where I ask, where are you at? Where are you guys going on Friday?
Earl Boltz Memorial Stadium, Cedar Crest High School, South Lebanon, Pennsylvania. Cedar Crest and Wilson.
Nice. I'll be joining you in Lebanon County. I'm going to Annville, home of the Dutchman, for Annville, Columbia. First place showdown in Section 4. Winner takes over sole possession. Loser drops another game back. Should be fun. I'm my first look live at Columbia in a non-practice situation this year, and I'm really anxious to see that offense live.
They're fun to watch, yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yep, Columbia at Annville for me.
All right, I'll be at Gene Cruz Field. I'll be on Gene Cruz Field at War Memorial Stadium is the proper terming there in Neffsville at Manheim Township High School. I believe so. Section 1 showdown, Hempfield going to Township, I believe is what we settled on. So big games coming up this Friday. Stay up to speed with all of it. Check out the football page on Lancaster Online. Pick up a copy of the Saturday or Sunday paper and check out the sports section. We'll have you all covered there. For Jeff Reinhardt, Mike Gross, I'm John Walk. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next week.
See you later.